version.
It's not sick yet.
Well, that's off by about 3 minutes.
It's a PDF.
It's late. I just like start like a couple seconds early, so
The address and whether it's contributing or not. Cuts down on that. I'm not a very good typist. Signature.
It's probably running late because of
Is Commissioner Franz joining?
He is, but he had to travel about 20 minutes worth of time when the everything got loose. I suspect that maybe there was a traffic light out or some other issue. He's supposed to be.
Okay.
So I think we should go ahead and start unless you think. I haven't heard from him.
Why don't you,
Because we have to do all the minutes.
Madam Chair, why don't you touch base with him to see if he's close? If he's a minute away, you know, it might make sense to wait. But if he, you know, if he's not going to be here for another 20 minutes, we might want, I think there's a quorum. It looks like there is. It may be advisable to begin.
Well, and I don't know that he'll answer me.
Fair enough.
Doesn't know the driving, his wife will be driving. Still, with perception and everything else.
I wouldn't. Wait, better.
That's true.
I got hacked. I just. That's your room. I got hacked. I just went to the cave. Andrew is saying that audio in here is quite poor.
Okay, this is why I need everyone to speak into their mics. So if you're not 4 inches or less away from you, I need you to pull in and
Your mic's not working at all.
It's not.
No, because the red light is not coming on it, so.
Lights on.
Tap the,
You have to have
tap this.
There you go. You had it on mute.
Well, somebody else did. Andrew, can you hear me? Where is it? Is he anywhere?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Let me just see.
Perfect.
Sure. Would you do that? Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and start. Might answer it. All right, we're just going to wait a few more minutes for the last commissioner.
And Mr. Moore, I'll bring you in when we get to your item on the agenda. That was his question. Yeah.
You called this. Here it comes. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right, Phil. Perfect. We have somebody in the audience now, too.
Branch out of it.
We kind of figured that. Figured that you were running into the worst of it as you were driving. Yeah.
See you in one piece. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you in one piece, he said.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You've had your shots, right?
Yes, 2 of them.
You don't have to wear your mask if you've had your shots.
Good,
If
that's
you're more
good.
comfortable with your mask, please feel free.
Mhm.
But since everybody has stated they're okay
Mhm.
and vaccinated, it's okay.
Pfizer and Mary Lee had Moderna.
Well, just waiting for you, so when you get settled, we'll get started. Good book.
Bought it in 1909 for $12.50.
Nice.
I really don't need it here tonight, but I had fun looking up the orders, the Greek orders.
I was barely born then.
What?
Barely born.
29?
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. You want to get all your stuff organized and then we'll start.
First year of college. Is that right? Actually,
Before we actually officially start, I'm just going to go around for Carolyn because she has not met everybody yet. And I'm going to have everybody go around and introduce themselves to Carolyn and maybe say something briefly about why you're sitting here, like, your passion, in 2 sentences or less, your passion about preservation or the area that you kind of represent. You actually represent real estate, which is one of the kind of the elements that we like to have represented.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm George Thomason, and I almost put my company on that. Usually my company has it. I don't do that. But I do have a passion for historic preservation of residential properties. Just as an observer. And that is why I'm here.
Thank you. It's very hard to hear you clearly. But I heard you say that's why I'm here.
At the Sky dinner at the yacht club about a month ago.
Nice to meet you.
Carolyn, you did not hear what he said in the beginning?
A little bit, but that's okay. I look forward to meeting everybody individually because I don't know about Brian, but I'm having a difficult time hearing you clearly. How about you, Brian?
Some difficulty, but when you lean in, it seems to make it better the closer you lean into the microphone. So that's at least what I've noticed.
We'll skip over the intros and we'll just get started.
Yeah, I think so.
You're muted, Joe.
You're muted. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to that. All right, I'm gonna make it official here. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Commission meeting on Thursday, July 1st, which is our first indoor meeting. This is our new, relatively new date and time, 6 p.m. We'll continue to meet at that first Thursday at 6 p.m. in the council chambers until we get different instructions. And I just wanted to welcome Carolyn to our HPARC commission meetings. And we're just briefly going to go around and everybody needs weigh in to the mic and just say your name and something brief about why you sit here.
Okay.
In.
Yes, I'm Joe Hockney. I'm a long-term member of the City Planning Commission. I was previously appointed to the Commercial Architectural Review Commission, HPARC, because I have a background in commercial real estate development, also known as shopping centers. And then when HPARC was dissipated, I became liaison to here. So I am juggling 2 different hats between City Planning Commission. I have a little background and interest in historic preservation, but not as avid as everybody else does here. Nice meeting you.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm Michael Whiter, and I'm a resident of the Historic District. And I've been interested in historic preservation for many, many years, and subscribed to such publications as the Old House Journal and a number of other journals of interest. And I'm very glad that you're going to be part of our commission.
Okay. And we've met Carolyn. I'm Barbara Warnell. I chair HPARC, and I've always been very passionate about historic preservation and the impact it has or won't have if it's not around. And I've attended
over the last probably 15 years, a half a dozen different workshops, and was on the committee that to develop HPC. HPARC was already in place, but we did not have a residential commission. And that was a 4-year process and very well worth it. So.
Hello, and I'm pleased to meet you. My name is Philip Franz, and I was a registered architect. My initial license was in New York State. Then I got my license in Connecticut and in New Jersey. And when I moved to Delaware, I got my Delaware license. I let all my licenses lapse, so I no longer am practicing architect. But I bring all of that experience to this commission. When moving here, I joined Preservation Delaware, and I was asked to be on that board. And that whole group seemed to disappear and was not functioning. And I decided that one summer, after we didn't meet for a long time, I would try to restart Preservation Delaware. And I was able to get 5 representatives from each of the 3 counties and reconstitute the board. I did my first 5 minutes. I did my first group of historic preservation project over 40 years ago. It was a group revival church, as this bank is a group revival piece of architecture. And I'm pleased to meet you.
Pleasure.
Welcome aboard, and I consider you a friend for the last 12 years that I've known you. I'm looking forward to working with you. I was on HPARC for 5 years. Now I'm 2 years on HPARC. So I'm very passionate about preservation, and we restored the home there on 2nd Street, and a little bit on Broadway, but not too much. Who are you? She knows I'm Bill Landon.
I know Michael well.
He's shy. She was my neighbor. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Now it came back on. That's probably pretty metaphorical that the microphone would stop when I start to talk, because I tend to shoot my mouth off too often. And that's how I ended up on HPARC, because as a native son to Lewis for the last 57 years, and a family that's been here for 301, I have shot my mouth off far too often about the things that I see that are causing the demise of the city of Lewis. And they asked me to join this group twice before. I had a couple of good excuses to get out of it the first couple of times, but I couldn't come up with a solid one the third time I was asked. So I hope that my years of experience, both as a building professional and also as a native son to this beautiful city, help to foster preservation within the city, because I hold it very dearly. I live in a beautiful home that I think is one of the most historically significant properties left in the downtown commercial district, and I hate to see everything else fall down around it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we are going to continue in the agenda to the minutes. We have 3 meeting minutes to review. So the first one was for the May 11th meeting. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, etc.? Does someone want to make a motion to approve?
Yeah, I move to approve the HPARC minutes of May 11th, 2021. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved. Next minutes are the public hearing that we had on June 3rd. Any corrections, additions? No? Someone want to make a motion to approve? Second? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. The last one is the regular meeting that followed the hearing on June 3rd. Anybody have any corrections, additions, etc.? Hearing none. Anyone want to make a motion?
Sure, I move to approve the HPARC minutes of June 3rd of 2021.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, moving right into our only application. And that is presentation and possible action on a request by Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company, M&T Bank, for the replacement of the roof materials on the structure located at 134 2nd Street, Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.08-37.00 TCH contributing. And who is going to do the presenting for that? Is he on the, is he the?
Mr. Moore
Is the bottom?
is the bottom person.
Okay, it's a little foggy, a little fuzzy, but okay, we can tell it's a person.
Could help at all?
Yes, no, you're fine. So,
Can you just ask him to speak very quickly?
Okay.
To the computer too?
okay, Mr. Moore, will you move into the computer whenever you're speaking so your mic can be picked up at our end?
You would like me to speak louder? I understand.
Just make sure, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Just if you pull away from your computer, you'll be further away from the mic. So just always lean into it, as we have to do here. So as has been commented already, this is an utterly beautiful architectural historic building on 2nd Street, and you're wanting to do some maintenance for the roof material, and part of that is removing the original, I assume it's original slate roof, is that correct?
I would have to assume that as well. We really don't have very many records from Sussex Trust.
Okay. So would you just like to tell the commission, get a little more information about the project?
Yes, the old slate is in bad condition and has had many penetrations through it, so it is leaking now. And the balance of the building, I think has been added on to at least 3 times. And that's all a flat built-up roof that has been silver coated many times. So it's currently leaking. So overall, the roof is in bad shape and needs to be replaced. So our feeling about the roofing material is that it's very difficult to see the hip portion that is covered in slate at this point from the front 2nd Street side. You know, the building facade is very impressive, but you really don't catch the roof behind. So rather than going back with an actual slate roof there, I'm proposing something that's more cost effective and would have a quite similar view from the front elevation. It's a slate line asphalt shingle. The built-up roof would be just covered with a white TPO rubber roof, is very common these days, and very, weather fast. The hip roof that we're talking about replacing with asphalt shingles is more viewable from the 3rd Street, but that elevation of the building and that entire block is much more of a working sort of a character, and all the other buildings along the block have, or many of them have, asphalt shingles. So that's kind of the summary of what we're wanting to do and why.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? George, we'll start with you and go around.
Yeah, can you just enlighten me as to
Make sure you're being in
yeah.
your mouth,
Hold
not
on,
your
I've
forehead.
got to get to my page that I was looking at. Enlighten me on the slate lined, asphalt shingle. How is that composed?
It is actually an asphalt shingle. I think in the submittal package, we have a cut of that material.
We do, but I'm unaware of that particular shingle, so you can just tell me. I can't really tell from the pictures. It simulates slate how? Slate. Does that mean there's a thin coating of slate over the asphalt? Randy can tell me if you don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to do a little bit more research on it. I have a more expansive cut here. I believe the texture and the edge thing would appear from a distance to be much more in the same pattern and colors as a slate roof. But when I look at the close-up of this, if you were holding it, you would not mistake it for slate. It looks like an asphalt shingle.
I believe the thickness of the shingle tries to replicate that of slate. So it has a heavier look, like a slate look, but it is asphalt, and it is a color that represents the slate color.
Okay, George, any other questions?
No, I think that pretty much did it. I should just ask you.
Joe, have any questions?
Well, I'm just, I like the choice, and I'm just guessing the fact that it's going to be like 15 to 20 feet up in the air, and you're on the ground or in the parking lot, you won't be able to tell the new from the old based on the description there. It sounds to me like it's a good choice.
Okay.
And do you know the warranty length on this? Typically, asphalt shingles make be a 20 or 30-year roof.
Yeah, I believe we're calling for a 20-year roof there. I generally get options for all the different warranty periods, but you really don't get anything less than 20 these days.
Right. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like this is it's a modern. Yeah, it looks like this is a modern material that basically tries to replicate something that is historic in nature. And when I looked at the City Code 197/59, the criteria in the standard section under B. It basically does state that acceptable materials include wood, slate, metal, asphalt, and fiberglass shingles. It also goes further to say that when a flat roof is otherwise compatible with the design criteria established in the code, the membrane can be similar material that's currently there. So I did look at the facility for the Second Street view. It's very clear that a very, very small amount of the mansard portion of the roof is visible. And I could barely see the membrane, the silver membrane, but I think perhaps going with the white membrane sort of integrates with the band that goes across the top of the building, which is currently painted in white. So the only other suggestion that I might put forth would be, I don't know whether you folks are locked into this GAF product, but I am aware of another product out there made by Certainteed that is it's a very, very convincing product, and it does come in a slate type of pattern. So I know we're not supposed to endorse commercials here, but I mean, it would be another option as well. So anyway, that's
We've seen that installed.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's on Jefferson. the two women that had the mansard roof.
Yeah.
I think they put, I don't know if that's what they used, but they put a really good looking product,
Yeah.
slate looking.
I can't remember, but yeah.
I think it could be the certainty. Yeah, it might be. All right. Thank you. Phil, do you have anything else you want to add?
I just want I want to add that I appreciate the effort that the bank went through in describing the classical Greek revival facade on the building. This building occupies a prominent location in the historic district on 2nd Street. And I did note that the rolled roofing or the flat roof was going to be white. And I thought that was a good choice because it does not, especially in these past several days where the temperature was extremely high, the black roof a black roof would absorb the heat and not be the right choice function wise. And so I think your choice of a white roof is an excellent choice.
Thank you.
What I really like is the fact that you're trying to mimic what's already there. Curious though, Robin, I've got a question for you. When the church did their roof, did they go, I'm trying to recall, back to slate? Cedar. They went with cedar, okay, yeah. They had asphalt and they went to cedar.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Excuse me, no, they had I think they had a simulated slate on there, if I'm not mistaken, and then they were going to go with it and decided to change to the cedar shape.
Okay. I'm wondering if you could capture one piece of this and show us sometime, it'd be nice. If we could have a piece of this and bring it in on one of our meetings down the pike, we can kind of look at it. Because it's kind of a new material for our city, right? It's not being used that much yet. And it's a movement product, I understand, as far as the technology of it. And I'd be curious to see what it looks like. I know you say asphalt, I don't know what asphalt looks like. It's a sort of a slate, so if we could.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I mean, we ought to do kind of maybe a segment of show and tell at every meeting if we have time, and we could actually get a sample of both the certainty, and this one, just so we're aware, we're better informed.
All right, yeah, I'm sure I can get samples of both of those and get them to you, Anne Marie, and share them around.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Randy, are you have any place to talk to us? That one at the far end was working.
Randy, not mine.
Too. Very funny, Joe. Very funny. So, all right, I'm on my third microphone now. Clearly, sound gods are not in my favor for talking. So a couple of different things, just for a point of clarity on Bill's question. So St. Peter's Church had originally slate shingles on it. They were paid for by Otis Smith in 1953. 16 years ago, we removed those and we put Da Vinci artificial slate, what is now the Da Vinci line, artificial slate shingles on there. They failed. Da Vinci has since improved their product. It is not an asphalt shingle. It is a simulated slate shingle. It's a composite shingle that looks like slate. So just so that that's all clear, there is other products, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but there is another product that is in between genuine slate, which the weight disposition and all of that make it a challenge for folks, and an asphalt simulation. I'm not advocating either way. My question was going to be, prior to that, going off on the rail of a different subject matter, was on the parapet walls on the front of this building. Is any of this work part of copying that, because what I would not like to see is a great big white band around the top of that cut face stone that's at the top, and that may be all capped in stone. And it is not part of this scope, but when I'm hearing that there's a
Well, you're cutting out pretty good. I don't think any of the roofing would lap over the historic elevation, if that's the question. On the alleyways in the back, I expect the appearance to be basically the same as it is now.
Understand what's going on in the alley. I'm just making sure that there's clarity and it's on record. I mean, I don't know whether you're addressing any waterproofing issues on the top of that wall with a roofing product, but wrapping it in metal and white membrane would be pretty horrific on the top of that.
If you asked a question, someone should probably repeat it for me because I did not hear.
I think what Randy's referring to is he's hoping that all this new roofing material will not impact the historic front elevation, will not overlap any of that edging or coping, or it will not be visible that new roofing material is behind that.
That's correct. You will not see any of this stuff. The new work, other than the pent or the hip, you won't see any of the white material or other metals and whatnot on the historic 2nd Street facade.
Okay. As far as the alternate materials for the slate-like roofing material, I think that's up to the applicant, unless we have a particular material that we have unfortunate experience with that we would not want to approve. But other than that, does anybody have any reason to want to do anything other than just have it be the responsibility of the applicant? Okay. All right. So basically, we'll just have before us the request from M&T to redo slate roofing and put on the synthetic type slate material as they have presented. And I think we'll just leave it at that unless M&T wants to do something different. At this point, we're just going to review what's in the application. Okay. Let's see. Does anyone have any other questions before I ask for a motion?
The only question I have is, what's your schedule once you get approved?
Are you asking what our schedule is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to price it at this point, but we're not doing any work until after the summer season. So I would say, late September would be an idea for that.
For protecting passerbys, yes.
Right, in that case, if there's no other questions, if we can get someone to do a motion, okay? Michael?
Sure. Because the property at 134 2nd Street, Sussex County Tax Map 335, 8.37.00 is a contributing structure and is a Lewis Historic District and uses previously approved materials. I move that this application be approved as submitted.
Okay, second from George. And we're going to go around. We're going to start with Michael because he made the motion to give us his reasoning. And then we'll go to George and hop over and come back.
Because it's a contributing structure and it shows general compatibility of the exterior design, arrangement, and texture and materials used have been previously approved, I vote to approve.
Okay, Joe?
Also vote to approve. This is a very good material. It's a difference. So go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, also didn't vote to approve, just based on, commissioners with a little bit more experience as to this product and what it's gonna look like. But I think it is good to go with a roof that isn't gonna leak.
Okay, Randy, do you have a mic you can make a motion or?
Yeah, what?
No. Boy, you are just, oh my gosh, everything you go up to, what's with you?
I have a magnetic field.
It was flipping the contacts around there.
So by the previous commissioners, I agree.
Okay, well, oh my goodness, we have to.
Materials are previously approved and historic district, that's exactly what we want. That's what we stand for, and I approve this motion.
Okay, that was Bill. Before that was Randy. And
Because this application concerns a property that occupies a prominent location on Second Street in the historic district, and because the selection of the proposed roofing materials are appropriate for this subject building, I move.
thank you. And I also approve the submission. I think it's, there was no change to the streetscape. It's a material that has been approved in the past in the historic district. I think the need to have the removal of the slate is acceptable. And it's, like I said before, it won't alter the streetscape, which is what we're always looking for. It's just a wonderful historic building, and I'm so glad that M&T is recognizing that and taking good care.
Thank you very much.
So the motion has passed unanimously, and thank you very much.
All right, I appreciate everybody's time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time as well. All right, next we have unfinished business, which will remain unfinished. I have yet to get any information. I called and emailed yet again to the state SHPO office, copied Chad, who did the survey, and still do not have any updates for the last phase, which the University of Delaware's, Chad's office does and has submitted to SHPO, the state historic office, several months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but they're having some change in staff at SHPO. I don't exactly know what that means. I haven't heard any details, but I guess I will have to start doing a test. And sometimes regular phone calls and emails does eventually get a response. Our new business is to appoint 3 HPARC members to a joint site development ad hoc committee, review committee for review of site plan for 1145 Savannah Road. And I'm curious what the scope of this is. Janelle, can you tell us some more?
I can answer that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
It doesn't matter, my microphone works.
So the reason this is coming before the Joint Site Development Ad Hoc Review Committee is because the site plan is having site disturbance over 2,500 square feet, and it's within 50 feet of a residential zone. It actually abuts a residential zone. There are no new buildings. It's just really, it's coming before because there's site disturbance, and there's a potential that there might be another site plan. I'm hoping that maybe it can be reviewed at the same time, and that would be for a building addition on Kings Highway, but we're still waiting for that submission.
Same site.
Different site. That one is on farther down on Kings Highway.
Oh,
So 1145 is on Savannah, and the other one I'm hoping to get to reviewed at the same time would be on Kings Highway.
okay, and so the scope is just a site, how the site is being altered.
Correct.
And nothing to do with buildings.
Correct.
interesting.
It's the way the code is written that if you do over 2,500 square foot of site disturbance and it's within 50 feet of a residential zoning, then it has to go through the full site plan review process. And this meets both of those criteria.
Okay.
And what is the property exactly? I understand. Talking about, you know.
So going to it's the proposal is for a brewery. It's just annexed into the city, slightly north of Hazard's gas station and right where the trail crosses Savannah Road.
Okay. Well, I think we had 3 people already selected, and Michael's not able to continue in that spot. And I know Robin and I had talked that we like the fact that we had flexibility. So if particular skill sets are needed, you know, we can kind of move around one group to another. And I know Joe has offered, since he's not going to be doing for planning, but I actually think in this case, I think we would be good. I mean, for us to have a preservation kind of person, even though preservation is probably not the most important thing. But I think Phil, who has you've done site work in your architectural career.
Yes, over and over again.
Yeah, so I would kind of like Phil to be, and Randy, if you want to stay on, that would be great. Will, do you want to stay on?
Sure.
Okay, so I would like to do that, if that's okay with everybody else. Anybody else? I'm sorry, Joe. Yes, you do.
You need a motion on that?
I think we should, yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah, I knew that, Bill and Phil to this,
Ad hoc.
ad hoc, committee.
Great.
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, all right. Let's go with that. So then we're down to our chair and staff, and everybody has their list, which should be under. Should have put 2. There. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here's a relatively short one for June. Does anyone have any questions about this application?
Chairman staff report as written for the properties that have been reviewed by chairperson and our inspector. Official motion. And I second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, so Robin, did you have anything you wanted to add to that now that we've already finished? Robin?
No, not really. As you can see, we had a couple that were partial approvals and partial denials. So
Right.
they were kind of a little more difficult this month, but we made it through them. If it's not noted on there, just for reference, the ones that don't have any approval or denial, I just always have said they've been approved. The only reason I break them down if we have a partial denial and partial approval, like I did on the 2.
Right.
Thank you.
Did you understand that? Oh, okay.
I'm just going to ask a quick question.
Sure.
The property on Market Street, is that going to come back before us? Or is that's the one where we
Aside.
demo? That's next to the Lehman store, the road.
Market Street.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, they never came back. That's the Market Street application, Market and Church Street.
Yeah.
Robin?
I talked to Arlene Maskin, the designer or architect on the project, and the owners have requested to withdraw the application for now.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Staff and Robin, the property at the corner of Washington and Kings Highway.
It's doing interior demolition now?
Yes.
I'm assuming there must be, but I mean, there's also piles. I'm just curious, is that something that is tentatively coming before HPARC, or are they not doing anything on the outside of that house, Robin?
I haven't heard anything yet. Coastal Cottage is doing the interior work, And right now, as far as I know, they're just doing like tear outs of stuff, interior. I would assume they're gonna do some exterior work, but again, I don't know that.
Yeah, because I know the roof is leaking like crazy. The gentleman that lives there was my painter for a while. So I know that's the thing. I would think they'd want to fix that before they do the inside.
Yeah.
Robin and I communicated, well, actually, the mayor communicated to me first, and I think may have contacted Robin as well, because when they're doing the demo, they're breaking some of the old windows, and they actually were leaving them open to the weather. And people, I think, I saw two gentlemen, they didn't go in, but they could have if they wanted to, off the porch. So anyway, so Robin did contact them and make them aware that they should responsibly secure the house. So, yes.
Yeah, I noticed, which I have never noticed it before, that it's actually a vinyl siding that's on the outside of that, and then together with J corners, I'm sure, I'm sure that underneath of that is some sort of clapboard from the Victorian. But, I just, there's a lot going on over there. Just, as Barbara and I talked about some time back, there's some pretty amazing windows on the Washington Street side of that property that we created in that era would have required an unbelievable expense to the homeowner to have had those windows made. And so talk about preservation, and you look at the areas where preservation has been done. It concerns me because we really don't have purview over windows, and we don't have purview over.
We do have purview over windows. It's just that we've never been able to have applicants receptive, other than the house on the other corner of Washington and Kings Highway, saved all those windows, removed them, and then had them refurbished, but with the original glass, unless one was broken. And in a lot of the houses that come before us have already had replacement windows some time ago. And only the ones that have the original, unfortunately, the one on 2nd Street would have been a perfect applicant had they been at all interested, because they were the original windows and in good condition. Now, the windows on this house on the corner of Washington, Kings Highway, they have done the right thing. They have store windows on all those historic windows. And that, according to the preservation guidelines, the pure ones, the true ones, that is exactly what, the National Park Service recommends, is protect, preserve, restore the original windows and put store windows on. And they have some, none of this is super cheap, but if it's at all possible, it would be the recommendation from the National Park Service. And that they have really wonderful companies that specialize in store windows for historic windows, where they actually will match the mullions, the horizontal markers. And so that you look at it, it's not off at all. So anyway, but I'm very concerned about that house as well, and I know Robin's keeping an eye on it, and as well the mayor. So
I sometimes when we're reviewing presentation projects before us, and we get to the windows, it's just, it's the same thing. We get the same detail over and over again, and they're not detailed really well on the drawings. So a lot is left to be decided, and I think we ought to be asking for some more details on the windows, and not just, oh, that's what we did last time, so we're going to do the same thing this time. If you go around Lewis and look at windows, you can see there are variations. There are variations in the details, the apron below the window, the sill, the trim around the window, and then the window itself. There are variations all over the place, and I think we could be a little tighter in asking for details when we, instead of just, oh, I'm going to do the same thing this time as I did last time. Okay.
Just so I have clarity as a new member of this commission, I understand that we have purview over windows, but I don't believe that we have the ability to say to someone, you can't take those sashes out and put a new window in that opening. And I'm asking the question because I honestly think, and I'm treading on thin ice here by asking about this property, but it has nothing to do with me personally.
No, it's okay.
It does have to do with me personally because my family's lumber and coal yard was behind that. The house that sat next to it was my grandfather and grandmother's house. The house that's being restored was my great uncle's house. So yeah, I do have a personal interest in making sure the place is preserved. It should be. And my question is, can not any owner in the city of Lewis, based upon our current guidance, walk into us with an application that says, I am removing every one of these 120 or 100 windows and replacing them with an Anderson window or possibly a Marvin window?
Currently, our code does not require that a contributing structure that has the original windows rehabilitate those windows. It does not require that currently. We don't do it so much anymore because a lot of times, like I said earlier, the windows they're replacing are already replacements. But that would have to be tightened up into the code.
Actually,
Go ahead.
Actually, the code does say under Windows, item number 7, restoration. If the windows are original to the historic contributing structure, every reasonable effort shall be made to rehabilitate rather than replace them. Repair materials shall duplicate the old in composition, design, and texture, and shall match as closely as possible the existing historic window elements.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then it goes into replacement in the event the original historic windows cannot be restored. Every reasonable effort should be made to replace them in kind using the same sash and pane configuration.
Well,
and also if the windows, if the wood part of the window is deteriorated beyond use and repair, but the glass is still there, well, the new window should match the original, and the glass from the old window should be taken out and put in the new window.
Yes, and they actually, they used to do an annual conference on preservation up at King of Prussia. Did anybody go to that besides me? And so they had a person there doing all day long. I think it ran for maybe 3 days or 2 days. And they had somebody there doing restoration of old windows. And they would take this horribly deteriorated, and they had this magic material, kind of a wood putty thing. And, they would put it in and sand it down, and they would be able to paint it, and they would show you, the beginning. They show samples of a comparable kind of window that they had done in the different stages. And there are some historic preservation commissions throughout the country that have very tight guidelines on that, and that is a given in the historic district. Ours has been very lax. The commissions before all of you have been, they would bring it up at every meeting. When Elaine Zimmerman was chair, she would bring it up at every meeting that had a historic house with the original windows. And I even bought a couple of books that when we had a public library space here, one of them is there, and it's a whole big fat book about restoring historic windows.
Well, I think that one of the keys, Barbara, is what Michael read, and I mean, I think that the significance is when we're talking about things that are original, you know, and one of the challenges, and I understand it as being a contractor, and you know, when I first started out 74 years ago, we guys who worked for us in our painting business, because we had a painting division for many years, glazed windows. And today, and we windows on Market Street and Mulberry Street and Kings Highway and Jefferson and Washington, and because that's what people did back then. They restored what was happening, right? And they restored the buildings. One of the challenges today is you're hard pressed to find someone who even knows how to glaze a window. However, you know, when we're talking about something that, you know, is a building like that. I mean, if we look at Roz, I mean, they painstakingly rehabilitated the house outside of that building when they did the work. They didn't rip windows out and replace them. And I'm sure that it took an awful long time to get all that stuff done and make it work. However, I just, you know, it becomes a slippery slope. You know, what is all reasonable effort to restore versus to replace? So.
Well, yes, it is a slippery slope, and it's also, you know, what's reasonable for the, you know, if it's at what point does it become a financial burden for the applicant that it, you know, we have to back off, and it's, you know, I don't know that there's, you know, we have quite a variation in the economic abilities of
not in downtown Lewis, we don't.
Well, you know, of our applicants. I don't think.
I could. I think that, in my opinion, each commission consistent with each applicant is taken on a case-by-case basis with that in mind, that if it can be restored, it should be restored. If it's beyond repair, so then we have to move to the next phase of that. But it's important for all of us individually to be consistent.
Good point.
So,
Yes.
I've had the experience of having to replace windows, but the wood part of the window was so far gone that I found a company in Vermont who replicated the original window and then took the historic glass out of the old windows and put it in the new window. And because I was in an area where they had an historic preservation officer, who came and checked, said, yeah, if you have to put new glass in, I don't want to see any fake old glass with bubbles in. You got to be able to step back and say, that glass is the original and that glass is the replacement. So they're all degrees of replacing windows, and it's really nice when you can replace historic windows in kind and with historic glass.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, we would actually have a great binder of resources that we could share with applicants, because sometimes they just, it's one too many steps for them to go to trying to track all this down.
Yeah,
And I think we even ran into a little of that with a couple of applicants that really went way above and beyond financially, but still couldn't source things, still had trouble sourcing. And that was the wrought iron fencing on the house, both on the house on Gill's Neck and also the one on Washington and Kings Highway. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, this has been very informative, actually. So we don't really have anything else on the agenda unless somebody has something else they would like to suggest.
I just wanted to comment on the application. I'm not I shouldn't have started that way, but I appreciated the way the bank described the classical parts of the front of the building, and how they named all the parts. And I went and got my old book because I had to take an exam on historic architecture, but the only part was they called the Capitol on the columns. Let's see, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian capitals, and they were iconic. Ionic.
Yeah.
Corinthian's really fancy.
I'm sorry?
The Corinthian is the one really fancy.
Yeah, with all the leaves.
Yes, I started, went through
And the
Ionic and then ended with Corinthian.
it's based on ram's horns,
Okay.
but to me, they look like eyes, and it tells me it's iconic.
Okay. Really iconic.
We should bring the clock back. It was on the front of that bank building.
Is that what was in the, looks like a center circle there? I wonder.
Oh, as a little kid.
Oh, you missed your chance to recommend that.
Well.
No, come on,
I
it's
wouldn't
just another
have
job. Oh, that you could have led into that. Okay, all right, if we have nothing else, anyone has?
I just, Robin, do you want us to leave our packets here? Your packet, dear.
Or give them to Janelle, should we give them to Janelle?
Yeah, you can leave them there if you like.
Okay.
That's fine.
Robin, you got my note on the Cannonball House?
Yes, the Cannonball House. Review.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, may I have a motion to?
So move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Good meeting.